Hello there, everyone. We have another review for you here today. We just finished Fatal Frame 4, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. And whenever we finish a game, I like to talk about the game from a mechanical standpoint, from a story standpoint, and then from an overall standpoint. This is where we talk about the little stuff in between. Um, we're playing through the series. Obviously, as the series goes on, they've done some advancements with how the combat and stuff works. But the general gist of it is, if you've never played a Fatal Frame game, is you kind of explore the world. You get different currency. It's very survival horror. You find healing stuff. You find upgrade materials, stuff like that. Little RPGs and like how you spend your materials. And the combat, which is the main like way of dealing with obstacles, is you have a camera. You have a certain amount of charge that you have to do, and you can take pictures of the ghost. It does damage to them. The reason why it's called Fatal Frame is because there's a frame where if they're like attacking you or something, you can take a picture and it does extra damage because it's like they thought they were going to get you, but you got them kind of thing. So that's kind of the combat. It's a simple concept that I done really well, especially in this game. Outside of that, it's your normal kind of survival horror stuff. You find notes, you find resources, you find save points. It does have unlimited saves, which I do appreciate. I don't like limited saves as a concept. Trying to think if there's any other mechanical stuff that we really need to talk about. You do play three separate characters. There is a different mechanic for one of the characters. One of the cameras does not, or the characters does not use a camera. They use a flashlight. It's a special spirit flashlight, as it's called, which has a little bit different way of doing combat. So instead of like charging, like for like taking the picture at certain times, you shine the flashlight. You do charge it up, and it does like a little ring, and then it does like a bigger ring. And when it does the bigger ring, you set it off with the ghost in there, and it does extra damage. The light also does slow down spirits inherently, it looks like. So like if they're coming at you, they'll be like full speed, and then as they get closer, that slows down. So some of the things that you want to do is you want to get closer to them with the flashlight while it's fully charged, so you can get extra damage on them for a close shot, as well as slowing them down so they don't hit you. So there is a little bit of a different mechanic for that one character. Which is interesting that they decided to take away, because there's three characters total. Two of them do use the camera obscura, which is the name of the special spirit camera for the Fatal Frame games. And then of course you got your normal like searching around, finding little hidden pictures of other things. In this game there are little dolls you could take pictures of, which in our playthrough we did get all 79 of them. Yes, you heard that right. There are 79 dolls in this game. It's a lot, but we got them all. So if you want to see those locations, our playthrough will get you there. But yeah, so that's the mechanical stuff of it. Story wise, basically, the long and the short of the story is each of the characters have returned to an island where some terrible event has happened about a decade ago, I think is what they said. And that basically one person's coming back to look for someone. And technically the prologue, you play one character that you don't play ever again. That character loses their friend that they came to the island with, and then they don't make it out of the prologue, obviously. And then the second character is kind of like looking around and figuring stuff out as she is trying to also find a friend that she lost. And finally, our main character, which is Ruka. This is the lady you see right there. She's looking for her friend, but also trying to figure out what happened on the island, because most of them have some form of amnesia due to the events of that traumatic event. So they're all kind of trying to piece together what had happened when they were younger, what happened 10 years ago, and how they're all connected to what's like going on. And then finally, the last character is a former detective who turned private investigator to chase down the person who caused the traumatic event 10 years ago. So that's kind of the story. Like I said, it's got a lot, but it does tie them all well together. It has a lot of good messaging, which we'll talk about in the overview here in a second. But each story has its own kind of lineage that all kind of ties right back into the main story with Ruka, and how Ruka finds each piece of the thing that they need to kind of deal with the catastrophe that the world is on the cusp of. Again, I don't like spoiling things in these reviews just in case people want to play them, but there you go. That's kind of the synopsis of the story. I don't want to go into any more detail to spoil anything, but overall, I absolutely love this game. The mechanics are very well done. You do still have a little problem with ghosts that'll like be inside of walls and stuff, which can get a little annoying. But overall, most of the ghosts are very easy to handle. We even played on normal, which in the older games 1 through 3 that we played, that was quite a challenge at some points. This one, normal, was actually pretty easy. And as I mentioned in our playthrough, I'm okay with that. I'm glad that normal feels relatively easy, because I feel like that makes it more accessible to more people. And I mentioned it also again in our playthrough, which you could find here on the channel, obviously, that I think so far, now I have not played Fatal Frame 5. Up to this point, I've only played Fatal Frame 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think 4 is probably the most accessible Fatal Frame game. It is very like user friendly. There's a little weirdness with the controls because it's going from a Wii to a PC. We did use a controller, but just to kind of describe to you. So the weirdness with the controls is your right stick controls your flashlight and your left stick controls your character. And if you pull them in different directions, right? If you start doing like different weird directions, it causes your character to kind of flip out and try to figure out which way you're trying to go. Once you figure out like how to maneuver, it's not too hard. There's like a quick turn, which is really good. But yeah, it's very, I feel like this is very accessible. It's much easier than I was expecting. There's a lot to this game. You do actually get rewarded for exploring. In fact, there was one item that kind of open the door for the messaging of this game, which we found just by like looking around. And I think that was really, really cool to find. And the messaging of this game is really, really good. So basically the kind of the thing they get at in this game is how you create your identity, like what makes you you. And this game approaches it from the idea that your memories are kind of what create you, right? We're made of our memories, essentially. And that's a discussion that's been had, of course, multiple times in multiple forums, but it's one of those that it's always interesting to see how that's approached, because it does beg the question, obviously, who are you if you don't have your memories, right? And we see that with the characters, since they've lost those memories and stuff, we figure out like who they are through how they act and stuff like that. And it's just one of those that's like having that conversation about how a person is like defined, by memories. And whether, having really good memory is a blessing or a curse, which is a really interesting discussion in and of itself, which we won't get into in this review. But a lot of great messaging in this game, a lot of great stuff to really draw in and think about from a player perspective. But the game overall was really good. We did run into one bug, which is a known bug. There's a doll that's in between 2 floors, and for some reason you have to reload the game before it'll let you register that you can take a picture of it. But other than that, the game ran well. The game looks great. There's some parts that are a little low res, like the doors and stuff, because I believe this is a port of a Wii game. But like, it's very hard for me to find cons. I do have one con about the ending, but I'm not going to spoil the ending. If you watch our playthrough, you could probably guess what that con is. But yeah, other than some little bit weird controls, I do wish there was a little bit more ghost variation. But in this game, every ghost has a story that you can read in your ghost list. So it's one of those that's like, okay, I can see why they did limited ghosts, because they wanted to give you more depth to the ghosts than just some random guy with a pitchfork or some random woman with a torch. Like, they actually have names and stories and reasons and, you know, all of that stuff, which is really, really cool. And all the patients in the area that you explore have stories, and it's really well done. Like I said, it's very hard for me to find any like legitimate like big gripe with the game, so I'm gonna cut this review a little short here and not get too too in the weeds about it. But if it's not obvious, my recommendation is check out Fatal Frame, Mask of Lunar Eclipse. It is amazing. You don't have to have played 1 through 3. So far as I know, the only connection to 1 through 3 is the camera obscura, obviously, because that's the thing that takes pictures of ghosts. That's fine. But you do not have to play 1 through 3 to play Fatal Frame 4. I think it is very accessible. It even has an easy mode, so if you find yourself like, this might be still a little hard because I'm new to this, there is an easy mode. I don't know how much easier that makes it. We played on normal, but there is a mode that is easier than normal, so there might be a case where you could just snap like a half power picture and still take things out, for all I know. But there's a lot of fun. There's a lot to talk about. It's well worth your time. I don't really have any caveats to this. We did play the PC version for clarification, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I was ready to play more of it. Every time I knew that was coming up, I was like, let's go. Let's play some more Fatal Frame 4. And it's definitely worth your time. So I'll give you the price here on Steam. It is currently $50. It's $50 on Steam. Which, you know, might be a little high for some people. It took us about 15 hours to beat, but we didn't get everything. There's a whole bunch of ghosts and specters and stuff that we didn't see. There's also harder difficulties. There's other unlockables, all sorts of stuff. So check out Fatal Frame 4, Mask of Lunar Eclipse. I definitely recommend it, and I'll see you in the next review. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye.